can't remember the last day that I had where I felt that, that feeling when you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm alive.
Sleep deprivation is not normal. It does not feel good.
Something is wrong. Something's not right. Do something or look for the problem.
Oh, wait a minute. Like, what is happening? Like, your brain lies to you sometimes when you're in these states. I would just feel terrible, and then I wouldn't realize there were thoughts associated with that, and I would just think it's time to eat a donut. Like, this will make me feel better.
Hello, my beautiful friends. My name is Dr. Beck.
And I am Christine Barker, and this is Am I Doing It Wrong? A podcast for doctors by doctors. Every week on the pod, we'll be bringing you conversations which shine light in dark places, normalise the doctor journey, ease unnecessary suffering, and give you actionable steps to thrive in all facets of your life. So grab a cuppa and get cozy for this week's episode of Am I Doing It Wrong? So hello everyone, welcome back, our beautiful friends, our Dr. Humans, to another episode of the Poddy. We are so excited for today's episode, and this is timely. We are talking about sleep deprivation today, and in particular how there are different rules for your sleep deprived days as compared to days when you're fully rested. We're going to be talking about how to honour those days, meet yourself where you are, but also how to get back on track. So if you have been having some sleep deprivation, you're going to want to listen to all of this. And someone who has been having oodles of sleep deprivation, hashtag new motherhood, is Dr. Beck. How are you feeling, Beck?
It's timely because I'm so tired.
How do you function? She manages to be great still. I would be literally incoherent, like dysphasic or something with your level of sleep.
You're too kind. Let's not assume that I'm going to be coherent here today in advance. Let's just see how we go. Okay.
But tell us how it's been going.
Yeah, seriously, I feel very humbled by having this experience again of being sleep deprived. And it's just like, this is obviously the way that we have to function so often in the hospital. And, I think certainly when I was training, I was thinking, I just have to get through these registrar years and then I will be done with the night shifts, with the chaotic roster, with the long shifts, with the weekends, with the 12 days and not having a break. And then when I'm a consultant living my beautiful, cushy, perfectly constructed, repeatable fortnight month in my dreamy roster that I'm totally in control of, I won't have to feel sleep deprivation ever again. Is that how it works, Christine?
To be honest, I don't have as much sleep deprivation as the registrars do, to be honest. I'm very lucky.
And also...
Yep.
You're the queen of positivity. Queen of positivity. But what is also true is getting to, finishing your training, it doesn't mean the end of sleep deprivation. And of course it's better. I totally agree, Christine, it's way better. But I definitely know for a lot of people I coach, the on-call rosters are a big feature in just our standard life. Like some people have, quite nicely segmented and compartmentalized times throughout the year where they are like intensely on call. And that can be a really difficult time where you can get working in the night or just be doing really long days that mean you can't quite catch up your sleep compared to the outputs that you're giving. But also, a lot of the surgeons I work with, also the people who are on call over the nights, still as a consultant to sort of be in that final call point, you can be interrupted enough times over the night, or to be honest, even just once or twice being interrupted when you pile in all the other stuff that comes into your life as well. Because you're not just, I think the interesting thing is when you're training, medicine is your whole life in most cases. When you finish training, then you add in all this other stuff in life. For example, having children. And so the only thing that interrupts your sleep or makes you more sleep deprived isn't your actual healthcare work, your actual medical work, but it's adding all the other stuff in. Children is the example right now, and I'm not even working in the hospital right now. And just with my gorgeous, amazing love of my life baby, I am so intensely sleep deprived, and I can't remember the last day that I had where I felt that that feeling when you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm alive. I'm ready for the day. Every wake up has been, whoa, like kind of looking at her and being like, do you reckon she'll go back to sleep? Like if I just stay in bed a little bit longer, maybe she'll just end up drowsy and I can catch the 2 hours sleep that I really, really need right now. So all of this being said, I'm very tired, and the point of this episode is if you are also tired, I just want to bring this awareness, this experience that I've been having lately where I've realized I need to take care of myself a bit differently. And some of the patterns that my brain tends to throw up and that I'm finding myself falling into that I need to specifically be able to break. And when not broken, when I let my mind, just kind of operate as it naturally does, in my state of being sleep deprived, I very easily can end up spiraling down to a point that is more difficult to climb out of than if I caught that top of the spiral earlier. And if I was able to really recognize what my mind was doing and interrupt at that earlier point. So this is what I wanted to talk to you guys about today from my very humble experience of feeling exhausted and noticing how tricky it's been to manage my mind and energy from this state.
Yeah, and I guess if you think about that, right, you are someone who manages your mind. It is what you live and breathe as a coach, as a mindset coach and a doctor, and you do live and breathe it. So I can only imagine how people are doing this sleep deprivation thing, whether it is due to work, whether it's due to motherhood, without even having any insight into this. And I think this is such a powerful conversation because of that. So you mentioned that sleep deprivation caused you to spiral down. I'm just curious, what do you actually mean by that? Like, what was going on for you? What have you been experiencing?
Yeah, and I think how I experience that, how I notice when I'm spiraling is feeling sort of this intense cloud of negativity. I suddenly find myself in a place where I'm physically, emotionally, energetically feeling heavy and feeling a bit solemn, dark, pessimistic, not dark in a way of sort of, being depressive or anything like that, but just dark in contrast to my normal, bright, optimistic, enthusiastic self. So for me, it's this really big contrast. And finding myself in that place when I'm just going about my day, and suddenly when I get awareness of myself, I'm like, whoa, like things feel heavy, things don't feel bright. So that experience is sort of the first time I get awareness of it, that just feeling more grey, feeling more pessimistic. And then from that place, from noticing that feeling and actually taking the time to check in with myself, like, what's going on? What's the problem here? Then I find my mind can just offer me thought after thought after thought, or judgment after judgment and prediction after prediction that are all so pessimistic compared to my normal self. So I kind of catch myself in like, wow, I'm surprised I'm feeling like, I notice that I'm not feeling great. I get that awareness in the day. And then when I check in with myself, I notice that my mind is being quite pessimistic as well. So that's sort of the experience that I've found myself in, naturally falling into when being sleep deprived in this kind of prolonged circumstance. So just a check-in point for you, because I know that a lot of doctors, a lot of the work that we do in Dare Darling is actually just creating these circumstances and even just creating this coaching space where you as doctors actually check in with yourself, like what is going on, instead of just being up in your head and focusing on the next thing you have to do, the next place that you're going, actually checking in and being like, how am I doing? So a moment for you right now as I kind of describe this situation, is there something that feels familiar to you at this point in your life? Has it been something that, or is it something that resonates with a recent part of your life where you can just check in with yourself and you find, oh, there's kind of this cloud here, and I'm more pessimistic than I know my true essence, my true self to be.
Yeah. Oh, this is so interesting, because I do think that we should be practicing self-awareness, and even on our best days, practicing like working that muscle to be checking in with yourself every day, good or bad, right? So that we get better at this self-awareness thing. But what I notice is, so what you're talking about is so familiar, and I have seen it in many different people. And if I'm on the side of helping someone who's having like a bad time with, you know, being in one of those like negative bubbles for whatever reason. So we're talking about sleep deprivation today. I've also seen this in the realms of chronic illness and things like that. Someone who's in pain or something like that. Okay, so like people that are close to me. And I feel like what actually happens as someone outside looking in is, if it's chronic that way, like it can be with sleep deprivation, and that's what you're talking about, Beck, this kind of, it's not going away after a week or so, that the person actually feels like a different person to me on the receiving end. Because like, for example, you, right? You normally, you're describing this little negative version of yourself when you're sleep deprived, but you normally, you will send me messages about being in a cafe and it's like you're in Disneyland. Like, you know what I mean? You'll be like so loving your life. Like that is normally the lens that you look through your life with. So if you're in a slightly more negative place, you're not speaking like that. And then I kind of feel like, oh, where did Beck go? And the reason I'm saying this is because I feel like this is not an uncommon thing that happens to us humans when we're in a wee negative spiral. But it's almost like it's not our best self. It's like a different version or some other, I don't know, some other part of us that's quite loud and it feels a bit different. But when we are in our own experience of that, it might be hard to check in with yourself. I'm curious as to your thoughts on how realistic is it to check in yourself versus having someone else to do that check in with you or for you. Yeah.
Well, can I just say, I love that frame that you give it, because you've seen me in these situations over the years, over the challenges. And I love that you always remind me that, like, this isn't Beck. Like, where is she? What's going on? And that's like, it's not, I think when you're in the emotion, when you're in especially a difficult emotion, a difficult energy, that is your reality. Like, we have to appreciate that that's how our mind, our consciousness works. That's how it's designed to work. You know, our emotions are meant to give us information about the environment. They're meant to tell us, like, they're meant to be the thing, not our thoughts, but our emotions, how we feel is meant to be the thing that grabs our attention. And therefore, you know, when things are bad, makes us pay attention. What's going on in the environment? Is there a threat here? Is there something I need to fix or do differently? And similarly, when we're feeling positive, you know, that's a signal to say everything's good. You can relax, you can sit back, you can be joyful, you can switch off your vigilance. And that's what I feel that, you know, how we feel, our body's feeling is really meant to do. It's meant to direct our attention, give us these little shortcuts. But, you know, the other issue with this is our emotions and how our body feels. As much as it has so much wisdom in it, it can be so grossly inaccurate. And what I think, I've been thinking about this situation, like, if this isn't me, as you say, Christine, this isn't me, and I'm grateful to have done this work for long enough to not get this conflated or confused with who I am, or think that I'm going on some kind of negative trajectory. I know who I am, and I know that this is a state of being right now, but it's not some kind of new identity or new place that I'm going. It's just a state of being. And with that, I know that as well, the reason that I'm feeling this way, you know, as I was saying, our emotions are supposed to give us information. Our emotions, how we feel, it doesn't actually give us direct information about what's going on in the world or in our life. Our emotions give us direct information about what our mind is perceiving to be going, right? That's the point. Your mind's this brilliant, amazing machine. It's this filter on this sort of human plane to let you see and experience the world. But it's not just the external world that your mind is monitoring and sending you information about and trying to make predictions about. But your mind is also constantly monitoring your internal state, the state of your body, right? And like you said, Christine, when you've got these chronic illnesses, and for me, when right now I'm sleep deprived, for you guys, whether you're like chronically sleep deprived or you just had a bad night's sleep, that's probably gonna feel a bit bad in your body. You're probably going to feel physically, emotionally, energetically, however you want to categorize it. There's going to be some kind of internal sensation of like, that's not right. Like right now I can feel a headache and I feel heaviness in my body. I feel a little bit sick in my stomach. You know, all these things that we'd usually associate with or like reasonably match up to like our body just saying, can you just go and rest and go to sleep? Now, the thing is, my mind right now, what I think is happening is my mind is taking those internal signals and it's just on a really basic level saying something is wrong. something's not right, do something, or look for the problem, figure out what the problem is and fix it, right? It's trying to be helpful. And there's a tricky thing with chronic illnesses too, because, you know, if we can't ever make these symptoms go away, then your mind is constantly perceiving pain or discomfort or something not right internally as well, and constantly sending that suggestion to your mind, something's not right. That then puts your mind like in that state of vigilance to find problems. And you know, the crazy thing about your mind is it is just the most amazing, you know, question answering machine. You ask your mind a question and try really hard not to produce an answer, right? Your brain is already suggesting an answer the moment you ask the question. And if my mind is sensing something's wrong in my body, and then therefore it's constantly got this vigilance, this subconscious vigilance of like, something's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, my mind will find answers to that question. You got to be so careful the questions that you let your mind ask. And my mind, when my body doesn't feel good, is saying, what's wrong? Something's wrong. Then it goes to work answering that question. like, well, Beck, this is wrong and this is wrong and that's a problem because now this will happen. And then the next minute, I know I've got this laundry list of problems that my mind is just offering without... that I, like, so many things. I didn't want to think about these problems right now, but B, are they even real problems, or is my mind just answering that question? So I just wanted to paint out for you guys who think in sort of systems like me and like to understand how your mind and body works. This physically less than ideal state, this discomfort you feel in your body can trigger your mind to be like, figure out what's wrong so I can fix it. And that can just trigger your mind to offer you all these things that are wrong in your life. And that, Christine, is how we can end up in the loop spiral down and down and down, because now our mind's just telling us, these are all the things. Thanks for asking. Here are all the things that are wrong and possibly could go wrong.
I'm laughing because I feel like you are so evolved, because my own experience of like chronic sleep deprivation in my training and everything was I would just feel terrible, and then I wouldn't realize there were thoughts associated with that, and I would just think it's time to eat a donut. Like, this will make me feel better. There is cortisol in my veins, and it is now time for a sugary snack that does no good for my health. And like, that would be, it's like, I feel terrible, solution, sugar. Was obviously, it's not what I'm thinking we should do, but I think like my own body's response is, I feel terrible, how can I make myself feel better even for 5 minutes? And I will crave those sugary foods and, you know, all the things. So I just think it's so interesting, because I think most people, unless they're doing the work that you do, they're not necessarily hearing those thoughts, so they're just feeling terrible. So you take it that step further and you understand that your mind is part of this. Even if you can't hear it, your mind is doing something. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
Can I just say, though, I'm not more evolved. I've just been doing this for longer, because that is the exact
still has donuts.
I started.
Donuts all the way.
One of the reasons, I think probably, I'd say this is the main reason that I got coached in the first place, was because I was eating my feelings. And I was so diligent health-wise, and it bothered me that I was like, why am I eating when I'm not hungry? Why do I want this? Why can I stop eating? And literally, as you're saying, like, that was the reason. I was like, I feel uncomfortable. How am I going to feel better? Oh, I don't have donut. Donut wasn't my choice. Chocolate was my choice. Chocolate was definitely my choice. But
relatable.
The donut chocolate, that, right? And that was the point I started. So I could see the behavior, right? Eating the donut. That was my only point of awareness.
And now you have more awareness, but I'm just trying to meet everyone where they are, because I feel
that's it.
You might be the person like me that was like, I just need a donut. What is Beck talking about? But there's more. This is what we're going to talk about, how to help the way Beck does it. Yeah.
So the way where the donut fits in is, the donut is the thing that you're doing as a result of how you feel, right? And so what I learned through getting help myself with this situation, with just eating to feel better, was that behavior was coming from the fact that I felt bad. Like, I didn't know what emotions were 10 years ago. I just reacted. It was all just like, why am I doing this? Why am I being hijacked? I don't know why I'm behaving this way. What a mystery. And then I had to learn, actually, what comes before me eating the donut is me feeling bad. And why do I feel bad? I feel bad because of my thoughts. It sounds very simple, but it is a amazing skill building process to get that self-awareness. So all that being said, this is not some magic skill that I just like have and I'm blessed with and you guys don't have if you just eat the donut. This is something that you can build. And like, I guess where we're going with this, Christine, too, is like, I find it really hard, a lot harder to do this self-awareness work when I'm in this state. When I'm a few rings down the spiral, it's so much harder because my mind's kind of already, I'm feeling terrible and it's hard for me to climb back up that emotional ladder, like choose, like unhook from those thoughts that feel really big and scary that are creating that problem, especially when I'm still getting feedback about feeling bad. It can be really hard to do this by myself when I'm in that pessimistic state. And that's why I will get coached. That's why I will call my good friend Christine and be like, hey, can I just vent/cry with you for a little bit? And usually, you know, one of the things I could do is journal, and journaling helps. And you can definitely try that. And I still do use that. But I think what I'd really like to put forwards if you're in this situation is to recruit another human, personal or professional, doesn't matter. It does matter. We'll give you some caveats, but recruit another human. When you have this extra kind of handicap, if you like, of being sleep deprived, recruit another human.
I think that is important because it really is that if you're in a spiral, a negative spiral, you can end up in a really dark place. But what I also find is that, like what you say, Beck, is when you're able to find another human and talk things out, that helps you get in touch with like the essence of what's truly bothering you or what's causing all this. Obviously, like just the sleep deprivation itself will cause, I'm sure, like a cortisol chemical imbalance. Like there would be something that's making your body feel tired. But this extra layer of negativity that you're talking about, that sort of magnetizes towards you and you're more vulnerable to them in those states is kind of what we're saying today. And it's like, if you want to really get in touch with that and release them, like a lot of them are running subconscious. So taking it to another human and getting that all up and out is really amazing. Because I think as well with journaling, when there's something, and I know we do this with coaching as well, like when you're coaching me, like if something's really troubling me, I'll write it in my journal and then I'll just move on to a new paragraph about something else. I don't want to walk through that. Whereas someone holding space for you, they'll be like, wait a minute, hold up, why did you just left that? Like there's something relevant there, like let's go back to that bit and let's work through that. And I think so other people can watch you avoid what you need to process, and then also can help you to know reality. Like I had an example recently where someone I was talking to, they were feeling a bit, I guess, scarce in terms of money. Like obviously there's a lot of things going on right now with the way the world is and how much things cost, and they'd had a few unexpected bills and it was really stressing them out, and it had really affected their mental well-being. And as they were talking to me, they were sort of doing the math, because I was trying to figure it out with them, and we're doing the maths and we were mathing, and they were working on, like, say their income was like, you know, X amount of dollars, they were working with something that was about a third of their income. Like in their head, they sort of convinced themselves that they only had like a third of their income to work with, and they kind of just decided the rest was not existing. And that's just an example of like how strange our mind is, like how much it can warp our sense of reality. And once that thought's up and out and you're like, is that really true? Because what about this bit that you just completely forgot about there? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, like what is happening? Like your brain lies to you sometimes when you're in these states.
Yeah, because it's like it's trying to, because you're feeling that fear. I often find doctors do this all the time. We are trying, specifically our brain is trying, this fearful part of our brain is trying to show us the worst case scenario, almost so that like, because your body's saying something's wrong, and we want to see what we're up against, what we're facing. So it will paint out the absolute worst case scenario, which, as you're saying, Christine, is often not even grounded in fact. Like it's so funny that there's literally a math problem. Like we're not even talking about anything subjective. You're like 1/3 of the amount that is actually the factual, tangible amount. Like, but you got to realize before that thought becomes conscious, that thought only shows up for you as a feeling. You just feel it. You just feel the scarcity. You don't see the thought. And that's why talking, like having somebody who you can talk this out to, it helps you pull up all the things that's going on in your mind. I think the other problem is your mind is busy and fast in this scared panic mode. It can be really hard to slow yourself down and actually see what your mind is perceiving, what the predictions you're making, what facts you are actually bringing to the table or not.
But do you know something else about this? Because I do think it is great to, like you say, recruit a human, and you'll obviously choose that human wisely. But I think something that I've done in the past where I was, in my I feel bad, I'm sleep deprived, and I'm having donuts era, I would go home still at night, and I would, maybe because I had to regulate so much during the day, that once I was home, I was completely exhausted and I had no energy for my partner. But I'd also be like whinging negativity about anything that happened, just whinging about my job and what it entailed and what was expected from me and how hard it was. And really that kind of narrative, like back to back to back for most of my registrar training. And that must have been really hard for that person in hindsight. And they weren't really equipped to like hold space for me and help me move through that. And I guess the chronicity of it was I was stuck in that training program. Like there wasn't a lot of my reality or my sleep deprivation that I could realistically change. And so it was just a constant trapped feeling. And I guess venting is different from like being coached or working through something in a productive way. And I think I understand that now, but I didn't know about anything else. I didn't have a psychologist or any professionals or a coach like yourself back then. So I guess I just wondered, for anyone listening, obviously your partner or your flatmates or whoever it is, your bestie, they can be an incredible resource. But how do we have that conversation in a way that's not exhausting to them, or it's like a productive conversation whilst we're feeling so terrible and negative? Like, how do we do that? Do you have any suggestions for that?
Yeah, and I think that's such an amazing conversation. Can I just say quickly as well, there are other, so yeah, when you're in the space, you don't necessarily want, coaching is classically like, let's move forwards, let's move through, let's get ourselves moving. It's not necessarily what you want or need in this situation. But the place that I do find coaching really useful is when I'm in this space, I can have this really debilitating self-judgment of myself on top of whatever's going on, like just judging myself for like, even the way that you said there, like, oh, I was being really, like I was whinging. That adds so much heaviness to the situation that we're going through. And it stops us, like it adds to that spiral. It makes it even harder to climb back out. So having somebody who can reflect that back for you. And as you were saying, Christine, just like reflect back quite literally. I help you bring up what your mind is saying subconsciously in a more organized and structured way, just freeing you from any unnecessary suffering, any unnecessary heaviness there. That is also something that coaching is really, really powerful for. And also there are spaces like peer support, specifically for doctors. So I co-host peer support meetings that are just for doctors. The program's called Physicians Anonymous. It is a global program, and they are these hour-long meetings where physicians can come and simply talk, simply have other physicians and the meeting facilitators just hold space and make sure this space is I'm going to say productive, but more of a non-damaging space, a space that isn't allowing people to spiral in ways that hurt them further. And also they create this space where people aren't being judged or held accountable to the things that they say, while they just try and hear themselves, acknowledge themselves, validate themselves in this space. So there's like, coaching isn't the only space, nor psychology, those mental health services. There's also things like peer support. And also, like, I think almost the ideal situation would be that we have people in our lives, our loved ones, who are deeply invested in us and know us to our bones. I feel like that is the ultimate ideal situation. And also what's true is, I think the truth is, so many of us aren't so lucky to have people in our life who can hold that space. Not because we don't have those people in our life. But the hard thing is, other people have their lives going on and their hardships going on too. And with the chronicity of these problems, a new mother with sleep deprivation, or a registrar going through years and years and years of training, or a consultant who's just on a brutal roster, it is a delicate balance, isn't it? It is a delicate balance to make sure we're not then taking too much from the other person, as much as they might want to give. It's a lot for a loved one to hold this pain. And then also, if they're not equipped to hold that challenge and that space for you, that can then come back and be damaging for you in this vulnerable situation, right? Because you need somebody who's able to not get in the pool with you and see, like, empathize to the point that they see you as this pessimistic person and they believe the problems that you're bringing forwards. You need somebody who's able to have enough of that optimistic and expansive mindset while still being able to hear your hardship, that they can, as you do, Christine, say, where's Beck? Like, I hear you and I believe everything that you're saying in terms of it being your experience. And also, I don't believe in whatever doom your mind might be offering right now. I think it's hilariously silly. And actually, like, we just need to get this, we're just going to deal with this, and then Beck will come back. And I think that's a very skillful person who can do that, not only occasionally, but to have, you know, in your example, Christine, a partner who could do that consistently for you. I think that's a really special person. I don't know that society's set up in a way that we have so much access to the people like that in that state, in that moment that you need them, if you know what I mean.
You got to know the person really well. Like, if I'm holding space for someone like that, and equally I'm sure the same is true when someone's holding space like that for me, like when they're standing waiting in the happy place whilst also holding space for my negativity, like what you're saying, kind of stable and come over here when you're ready kind of energy. I think I only ever hold space for people like that when I know them very, very well. But also I'm sure there are professionals that do it with people they've just met. Obviously I know it can be, but I think in terms of if you're asking someone in your life, like, I wouldn't necessarily just, well, to be honest, I don't want to say that. I think what I was actually thinking was the most important thing from your own perspective is not to just bottle it up, keep it inside, numb it out with alcohol or something like unproductive or whatever it is you do to numb things, apart from the donuts. Also, maybe the donuts are bad for you, but you know what I mean? Like, I think numbing it out and kind of suppressing it, hitting the override button, making it worse essentially, like you say, is probably not the answer. So I think, like, finding an avenue, but I think what we're saying is that those people are, like, to be chosen wisely, but also just choosing one and getting started. Like, let this out of your body, allow yourself to process this on these negative spiral days, I think is very important. And
choosing one and getting started, and just be willing to let it be an experiment that doesn't work too. Ideally, best case scenario, somebody in your life that if it doesn't work out, don't interpret that as, oh, so I've got nowhere to go. Then I guess you're moving over to the professional resources. But I think I want to say with that, like, this is why doctors deserve, should by default have these support systems, because it's a lot to, like, I think a doctor in so many ways almost has to be the main character, because especially a doctor in training, they have to be the main character. Like, they have to be really careful to construct their environment to keep moving through how grueling training is. And even as a consultant, you know, my partner, he has so much responsibility on his shoulders. He has such intense days. He has such difficult work. And I can see how, you know, there's not much reserve. As much as he copes and manages so well, there's not much reserve. And I just think when it comes to professionals like you guys, I think you underestimate the work that you do, the importance and impact of it, and how important it is for you to be sharp, you to be well rested, you to be thriving. And so when it comes to these times, we need to be able to have support systems in place to keep us in thriving and not let us fall back, especially when, you know, for example, you're sleep deprived, or maybe you've got a chronic illness, or you've had a child, or you're having stresses in your life, whatever thing is like really draining you and giving you those signals from your, like, internal signals that are saying we're not doing well right now.
Yeah. And I guess as we're talking about this, I feel like I'm just kind of realizing that, like you say, Beck, there's probably systems around us as doctors where it would be beautiful, like the peer support program that you had discussed, that you're part of, that you facilitate. I think that's really healthy. But I think, like, you know, there's people that might be my work colleagues or something like that. If I was having like a really bad time, I don't know that I would feel that they would give me the empowerment, or that they wouldn't worry that something was wrong, or I'd be worried that, are they going to think I'm not competent to be here? Are they going to think that I'm like not? Because I think that there is a fine balance of all these things on the spectrum of, like, you know, we were talking about like burnout, well-being to thriving, and then like your mental health and your physical health and all the stuff kind of layered onto that. and things like sleep deprivation can really throw that out of whack in such a big way. You know, I remember being so gaslit as well by senior people when I was doing my training, and they'd be like, oh, you know, like it was like they just deleted your sleep deprivation from their conscious awareness. Like they did not give a stuff about how you were feeling at all. And if you were to say, oh, I really don't like sleep deprivation, this did happen to me, they made me feel as if there was something deeply wrong with me. And now I'm pretty sure that the WHO has a health warning against sleep deprivation. Like, it's not, sorry, I'm sure you're going to be fine, Beck, it's a season of your life, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like I was so gaslit by people just making it seem as if my experience was not valid. And I think that could happen with your colleagues, it could happen with your seniors. Like, I think it's just there are safe spaces, but I wonder, like, you know, you got to be careful with your safe space as well. And I think there should be more safe spaces. And just coming back to my previous comment about why I only hold space like this for people I know, in hindsight, I actually think that's because of the time it takes to hold space for someone and how time is my main asset. So I actually think like this takes a good hour, sometimes 2 or 3 hours to do this with someone. And so I also think that's part of it as well. So just to clear up my previous statement.
Yeah, it's just... I'm so glad we're having the conversation because it's just not a simple thing, and it's difficult to work out who those safe spaces are. And again, it's like you're saying, even if you've got a safe space with your partner, it's not just a simple black and white thing. It's like, to what extent can they hold this space? Like, if it's every night that I'm coming home because I'm really going through a hard time, but the answer can't just be then, well, then I'm going to bottle it up, as you say, and not talk to them. So I think what we're touching on here is like, this is such a normal part of a doctor's life. And I don't want to like disregard any other, you know, careers and just any other career in general. But again, it's like the work that doctors do is not only technically difficult, but also high stakes to get correct. It also requires this other layer of compassion and service, this humanness to be brought forwards. And it's just all the more reason that we are able to actually support ourselves in this scenario. And it's just the obvious solution is, it's just so obvious that this should be baked into our system as doctors, that we should have a space. We should have a space for this very problem we are describing. And I feel so sad about the knowing, like from what you've said, that people are sort of gaslit into thinking they should just be coping better. And I've had those thoughts over this time postpartum too. I think postpartum similarly is really underestimated and not structurally supported in the way that it ideally would be. And it just makes me so sad that society and our medical culture like naturally leads us to these thoughts of like, oh, maybe I'm just not coping well. Maybe there's something wrong with me. You know, look around, everybody else is doing it. They seem to be fine. Like, that so commonly comes up in coaching. It so commonly comes up. So, I mean, I don't want to make everything about coaching, but doctors deserve coaches. Like, if you can't go and get yourself a Christine, then yeah, I mean, it's not just coaching. The professional services who are like, they are trained to not only hold this space, but specifically to hold you in the highest regard, to professional services that are committed to holding you as your best, most resourced, most capable self. Like, you've got to have somebody who can see you in the hardship, who can see you suffering, who can hear your fears and concerns, and yet not have that shake their knowing of how capable you are.
That is so beautiful. I love that so much. So just to recap today, for you guys, if you're still listening, you are our people. Sleep deprivation is not normal. It does not feel good. Don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking there's something wrong with you. It's not normal. Okay. You may crave donuts during sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation has... Warning. Or chocolate. Sleep deprivation has different rules from a day when you are completely rested. You cannot expect those 2 days to have the same rules. But also, on a more serious note, what we're seeing here is that when you are sleep deprived, you are far more prone to negativity, to getting yourself into negative bubbles, and it is quite tricky sometimes to pick yourself out of there. So when you are sleep deprived and you're feeling negative and low, please reach out to a friend who can hold you in that high regard, help you, like extend a hand out for you, take you back to a happy place. And obviously we hope you get some rest and rejuvenate as well. So we really hope that this episode has been so helpful for you guys. We're sending so much love and rest your way if you are sleep deprived, especially to you, Beck, and you need to have a wee rest, I think. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you again soon for another episode. Bye.
We get so many heartfelt thank yous from our fellow doctors for having these vulnerable conversations on this public podcast. If you want to say thank you too, we would be most appreciative if you left our podcast a review. Reviews actually mean everything to us because they're what make the platform share this podcast with all the other doctor humans. And our mission is to make as many doctor humans as we can reach feel more human. Just go to the podcast app, click on the show, and find the option to review. The other way you can help us is just by sharing the podcast with someone in your life who you know will say, thank you for saying that, or tagging us on social media. And if you're in healthcare looking for speakers for your next event, or professionals who actually get it to facilitate the vulnerable conversations our teams of doctors need, request us through podcastfordoctors@gmail.com.